Is a square robot better than a round one? My name is Jamie Andrews, and today we have the latest flagship from Ecovacs, the X2 OMNI, which is a squarish shaped robot instead of the typical round shape that dominates the industry today. The last time I reviewed a robot vacuum with a square-ish design, it was the Nido D7 over 4 years ago. The X2 is Ecovacs' new flagship model, and likely replacing the X1, which I reviewed on my channel last year. It has all the features of the X1, but adds lifting mopping pads, a larger internal water tank, a larger battery, and a dock that supports fast charging and hot water mop washing. Ecovacs decided their new flagship should be a square-shaped robot with the LiDAR moved to the front instead of on top, which I find to be interesting yet very daring, since the navigation physics and the software code have to be modified pretty drastically with both of these changes, which we will see later in this video. Looking at the dock, we notice it has shrunk in size compared to the older design, although if you're excited about this because you want to put it under a table or a shelf, you might be a bit disappointed because with the lid open, the new design only saved around a half an inch or around 10 millimeters. The good news is they managed to make it an inch more narrow, and overall I think it looks way better. Before I get too far ahead of myself, let's take a step back and look a little closer at the robot, starting with the front where we have AIVI 3D 2.0, which consists of an RGBD camera and structured light sensors. Around the side we see the semi-solid-state LiDAR module. Most robots, like the older X1, use a DTOF or direct time-of-flight LiDAR on top of the robot that uses a laser beam and spins 360 degrees on a rotating spindle to capture a 3D image of its environment. They're very precise for mapping and navigation. However, the drawback is they protrude from the top of the robot and have more exposed moving parts that can break. Ecovacs was able to save about a centimeter of height compared to their older robots by switching to the semi-solid-state LiDAR and moving it to the front of the robot. The drawback to this design is it can only scan 210 degrees of your room at a time. Looking at the top, we have a single multifunction button surrounded by 3 microphones for Eco 2.0, which is now very much so improved. Okay, Eco.
Go ahead.
Start hot air drying.
Okay, start hot air drying.
Okay, Eco.
Go ahead.
Go back to the station.
Okay, back to station.
Under the lid, held on by 3 magnets, you will find a QR code for getting the app set up, a red power switch, and a combo Wi-Fi indicator light and reset button. The dustbin is rather large in size at 420 milliliters, with a removable filter and a mesh pre-filter which is smaller than before, and a very interesting design choice. On the back corner there is a rubber door where dust is extracted out of the robot into the dock, and around back we have a set of charging contacts and this hole the dock uses to fill the now much larger 180 milliliter internal water tank, which is a whole 100 milliliters larger than the predecessor, the X1. Around the side we see not 1 but 2 side wall sensors. Flipping the robot over, we see a set of 6 cliff sensors designed to keep the X2 from tumbling down your stairs, a single side spinning brush, and a dedicated carpet detection sensor. Due to the square design, we now have a much larger all-rubber roller brush with detachable ends to ease the task of removing tangled hair. Here you can see how much bigger the roller of the X2 is compared to the T20, which is 19% smaller in size. Here you can also see just how much closer the roller and the mopping pads can get to the wall with the X2. Around back we see those 2 rotating mopping pads which now lift up to 15 millimeters in height, a full 6 millimeters higher than the Ecovacs T20 in comparison, and one of the highest lifting mopping systems I have tested. The mopping pads are removable and appear to be their newest design. Moving on to the dock, under the lid we have a 4-liter clean water tank which is the same size as found in the X1. This is good news, especially since they reduced the size of the dock. Where they did end up saving some space is by removing the storage for the cleaning brush and the extra storage for mopping pads, which both are not included this time. They also reduced the size of the dirty water tank, dropping it from 4 liters to 3.5 liters. The dock, like the robot, now only has a single multifunction button on the front. There's also a cool large multifunction LED light that will flash red when there is an issue that you need to attend to. Behind this door is a 3-liter dust bag, which thankfully is the same size as before. I like that they don't use plastic on their bags, as it will make them more biodegradable. The dock tray is now, thankfully, fully removable and designed so you no longer need to clean inside the dock, as you did with the other models. Included is this large tray filter, and underneath is where water is extracted from this single hole in the back. I tested the performance of the dock in a few different ways. First up is the ability for the dock to empty out a completely full dustbin. Instead of running for 10 or 15 seconds, it now runs for 2 short 5-second bursts of power, which resulted in the contents always being removed from the dustbin. The noise it made while doing so was only around 79 decibels, which is on the lower side and not too harsh on the ears from around 5 feet away. What about that hot water washing? In the app, there are 3 different settings to control this. First is energy efficient, which does not use any hot water when cleaning. Then there's hot water washing, which does use some hot water. And finally, deep washing, which gives extended washing time and the hottest water. I started out with 78-degree tap water, and with this setting in the app set to hot water washing, I measured around 108 degrees peak water temp. And with the setting switched to deep washing, I saw a peak temperature of around 124 degrees. Next is with the dock's ability to quickly dry the mopping pads and the dock sink. I found after 2 hours of drying, the pads were nearly dry. However, the drain in the dock still had a good bit of water in it. In fact, after 4 hours, which is the max time setting in the app, I found there to be water left in the dock drain that can easily spill out if you're not careful. Moving on to the robot for testing. The robot now boasts a very powerful 8,000 Pascal vacuum motor, which is industry leading. In standard vacuum mode from 4 feet away, it produced around 63 decibels of sound, and when boosting it to max plus, I recorded around 74 decibels. One huge advantage to the squared off front of the X2 is with the ability to clean corners in your rooms. I tested this by placing some coffee grounds in the corner of my room and sent a comparable robot vacuum out, and as expected, it left a good bit in the corner. I ran the X2 through the same test and clearly demonstrates the ability of the X2 to reach places that are not yet possible to reach from a round robot. Additionally, the squared off design allows the mopping pads to get closer to the walls as well. The X2 is equipped with a revised version of object avoidance system found on the X1, which I praised for its ability to avoid most objects, including cords. Unfortunately, I feel the system has not really improved, as it gets way too close to some objects like animal waste, and also plows over cords, which always get stuck in the roller brush. Okay, moving on to the vacuuming test. On tile floor, I scattered 130 grams of cat litter and set the vacuum motor to max plus to unleash all 8,000 pascals of suction power and allow it one pass to pick up as much as possible. This is where I first noticed the navigation issues with the X2, where it is not making tight enough turns to the left, which should be tighter to accommodate for the offset roller brush. This caused the lower than expected result, only picking up 103 grams or 79% of the cat litter. On carpet, we had a similar experience where I scattered 54 grams of rice on my medium pile carpet and once again set the vacuum motor to max plus. The end result was not great, since it was the same navigation issue, resulting in only 46 grams or 86%. As you can see here, there are 3 distinct lines of rice that it did not pick up. This means there are parts of your floor that are being missed by the X2. In this comparison, you can see just how many more passes a competing robot vacuum makes in standard vacuum only mode compared to the X2. Even comparing it to the T20 in my foyer, the X2 made less passes. My only suggestion is to set the job to perform 2 passes in the app to cover the entire room until this issue is resolved. I have contacted Ecovacs about this problem and they are working on a fix for it. I'll be sure to test it once again once they have released a fix and report these findings back to you. As far as mopping, I used baked on hot sauce on my tile floor and sent the robot out using room temperature water set to the highest water level without any detergent to clean up as much as possible. The same problem did not exist for the mopping since my standard test is run with 2 passes, and Ecovacs gives you a deep mopping option which performs tighter S-shaped patterns. The final result is it was able to clean up around 95% of the hot sauce. You may have noticed some weird navigation in the last mopping video, and let me tell you there, after 6 attempts, that was the best result for navigation, and yes, object avoidance was disabled. Not only does it need tighter S-shaped patterns when vacuuming, the overall navigation is a step behind the other Ecovacs models with the top-mounted LiDAR. At times the robot would not follow a wall and ping-pong along, as you can see here in my hallway. Other times it would just sit and spin in circles, as if it were lost. And indeed, when it was not spinning, it would often start wandering around going off course for no good reason. Oftentimes I found it going over the same area 3 or 4 times while totally missing other areas completely. This made testing the X2 one of the more challenging robots to date, as you can imagine. The last navigation problem is related to the new squared off shape. I found when it was turning close to walls and furniture, it would not leave enough room to turn without glancing off furniture and walls with its rear right corner. You can see the white marks left on the back corner of the X2, which unfortunately are a drawback of the square shape of the X2. Remember, round robots spin in place and don't have this issue by design. Then there's the app. One big issue still is not fixed is with not being able to divide rooms, which is still a huge issue. Take a look at how long it takes to divide my floor plan in the competitor's product compared to Ecovacs. And spoiler alert, I was not able to divide some of my rooms at all. So are there any things that I liked about the X2? Well, the answer is yes. Several things, in fact. Here's a long list of the things that I do like about the X2. The hardware, as always, is super well put together, rattle-free, and has a very premium look and feel compared to the competition. Remember, you can get software fixed through updates, but bad hardware is something you are just stuck with. Speaking of hardware, and back to my original question in the beginning of the video, do you think Ecovacs made the right move by creating a squared off robot over the traditional round robot shape? Was it worth saving some clearance on top of the robot to change the entire navigation system for a robot that needs and demands precise navigation? I'd love to hear from you what you think in the comments below. As for me, if Ecovacs can fix the navigation issues, then there's no denying a square shape with a larger brush roller opening has many advantages over a round robot. But as it sits now, we have a robot that is designed to get places where the competition can't. However, that achievement is at the cost of good overall navigation. As with most things in life, there is always a compromise, but this is a little too much in my opinion. If they gave us a round robot with all the improvements of the X2 minus the square design, we might just have a category winner. It is what I was hoping for. On a side note, the T20 Omni that has many of the same features at a fraction of the price, which I'll leave a link to that review down in the description below. It's worth a look. The X2 will return soon as I plan to put it in a head-to-head with the Roborock S8 Pro Ultra and the Dreamy L20 Ultra. If you want to see any other comparisons, please let me know in the comments below. If you found this helped you in any way, please consider subscribing, sharing, and liking this very video. Links to purchase are in the description below. Take it easy, everyone. Bye-bye.